Hey Omar, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Kerri-Ann, thank you so much. I'm really
Yeah,
excited to be back here again. Thank you.
yeah, it's been a year since you've been on the podcast. Of course, I'm in touch with you. I think I was on a weekly basis because you're been a part of not only working with you one on one, but you've been a part of my group. But the listeners haven't heard your voice in a long time, and I just want to say that I re-listened to your interview from almost just over a year ago. It was last a year ago, December. And
hmm
it was so powerful. Like I just to witness how far you've come, and now I've gotten to see you even grow in the last year, but just how much wisdom you have with the work because you really dived into it, which to me is a sign that there was something within you, and there still is something within you that wants to thrive, so wants to heal, so you don't have to live in a world of suffer, in your own reality of suffering, and live more in a space with ease and joy and playful and freedom. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, no, that's really that's exactly it. I have, and I've kind of I'm still on that journey even now, but I've really seen the positive impacts of really starting to connect with myself even more empathetically and trying to understand um not just the root cause, but being able to kind of reframe limiting beliefs that I had before, and really kind of also now where I'm at now is finding ways to give back as well and
Mm.
support others. And for me, I think that's been a powerful experience and continues to be. And in that, I've still continued to find ways to keep myself grounded, to remain humble, and do things that support my growth and continue to support that. And it's a really nice place to be. So
Yeah. Tell me why it's been important to you to give back. What's driving that for you?
I think one thing I've learned is my story or my journey or experiences that I've had. They've been so debilitating at times for me. It's caused me to self harm. It's caused me to try and in the past take my own life, or attempt to, and I've then sort of come to realize how difficult it is for people. I'd say men in particular, as well, obviously, because we don't allow ourselves to connect to our emotions. We don't allow ourselves to really go inward, try to understand the root cause of our suffering, and go inward in a way that can then um, kind of give us a great degree of understanding. But what we tend to do is just suppress and hold back, and we don't really kind of connect to ourselves, but also kind of sometimes we're too afraid to seek the support that we need. And I think part of me wanting to continue my journey and now give back is just to kind of put that human element to it, to say that we're all made of the same stuff. We all have our own sufferings in our own ways, but we don't need to, suffer in silence. And there is support out there.
Mhm.
And I don't do it from an egocentric way. I just kind of do it from a human and empathetic way, and with compassion as well, because
Mm.
I understand it, and I still don't understand it at times, but when I get it, because we're all on that journey anyway. But um, to kind of really appreciate that, um, where other people are, that they don't need to stay there.
Yeah,
They can
yeah.
find ways, and there's opportunities for them to kind of change and become um, a better version, or whatever that better version is, because we're all growing anyway at the end of the day.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'd love to hear, and I'm sure the listeners want to hear, what has shifted over the last year for you?
Quite a few things. I think at the time when we last spoke, I was still studying. I finished the masters in project management. I graduated back end of 2022, and I was still on medication at the time. I'm not on that anymore. I don't see a psychiatrist or a therapist anymore. And the other thing I actually started doing, one of the big things which I really am passionate about now, and almost do habitually, is cold water dipping and cold showers. And I remember the first time I did it was January last year, and a friend of mine, I only got to meet her that Christmas actually, end of 2021, and she was into cold water dipping, so she invited me. And I remember doing a bit of exercise along the beach in Aberdeen, Scotland, where I stay, and I was just really panicking. I was like, "Am I going to die? I'm going to die. Is something going to happen? Am I going to be okay?" And we went in the water, and she just really helped me to regulate and relax. And she was so calming in her approach, and she said, "You're going to be totally fine. It's okay." And it was quite an experience. And for about an hour afterwards, I was shivering. We went for a walk along the beach, and I was still shivering. And but it kept me wanting to go back, and I got really curious about it. I do a lot more meditation. I started doing meditation even more since then. And again, it's just allowed me to connect to my breath, to my body, to really kind of feel, physiologically what goes on with my body when I'm breathing, and my emotions, and that understanding of regulating, or self-regulation. And I've continued to kind of do that throughout since then. And there's actually a few communities as well in Aberdeen who do cold water swimming and cold water dipping, which I've joined. And again, it's just allowed me to connect with like-minded people as well.
Beautiful. So there's a couple of nuggets in there. I want to start with just first recognizing your growth in the last year. So obviously getting off your medication. How was that experience for you to get off the medication?
I'll be honest with you, it was actually quite tough, because I remember, I know we had quite a few calls about it. And it was almost like the emotions was sadness. The emotions was almost like when I was on it, maybe certain feelings were chemically numbed, if you would, because of that, or chemically disturbed. And I found it really, really hard, but I committed myself to do it, to continue with it, because my psychiatrist, who's a great psychiatrist, absolutely fantastic, said, I don't really need this, you've got enough tools in your toolbox. So, and that was the thing that really kind of helped me continue on that. I did also still have a bit of a wobble. At the start of last year, it did lead me to self-harm, but I ended up getting some more therapy. And I remember speaking to and working with an NLP coach and doing some of that work. And I remember one of the experiences we shared is, he said to me, I have quite a few motorbikes, and one of them's a Ducati, and he said, "Oh, you wouldn't let your dad ride your bike?" I was like, "No, it's my bike." "You wouldn't let your dad tune your bike?" So no, I wouldn't, because it's mine. I own it, I tune it, I ride it the way I want to ride it. And he kind of made that connection with your mind. It's the same way, you connect and ride and feel what you feel the way you want to feel it. Don't let anyone else, take that away from you. Just as you ride a motorcycle, you're in control of it, and you're in control of your thoughts, feelings, and your emotions as well. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. And that was one of the things that then helped me to really look at things from a different perspective. We did a lot of deeper work as well, and realized that I don't need to attach myself to these limiting beliefs that were still there a little bit. a lot of journaling as well has helped me, and also, you know, continuing
I want to go
with.
back to just the emotion piece, because I think, you know, it's your story is amazing. It's, you know, your transformation. And I think some people, it would scare them, especially the emotional piece.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when you, for example, we're not necessarily recommending that everyone comes off the medication. You have to work with a, you know, a professional on that. But your specific journey, the therapist you were working with said you don't need it anymore. You started to come off it and you had a lot of emotions. And she'd said you have tools in your toolbox to manage these emotions. And as you even said, the medicine was kind of suppressing or repressing or numbing,
Hmm.
depressing the emotion. So of
Yeah,
course, when that medicine's not there, it's going to start coming up
yeah.
and it's going to dysregulate the nervous system. And you had tools like community, cold water plunging, and even you said you had a bit of a wobble and you self-harmed, which helped you to regulate. And again,
Hmm.
we're not saying go ahead and self-harm, but
No.
we want to look at it as self-harm is not good or bad. It was necessary for you to regulate your body until you learned how to regulate your body
Hmm.
through cold water plunge, through journaling, through what other means do you regulate your body?
I do a lot of meditation, a lot of breath work. I habitually do that every day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. One of the things which I'm quite open to share with friends, who now see me in a different way, is that I have scented candles and I have a room diffuser, and you know, on a Sunday night, if
You're
I've
a
been.
total hippie now.
Exactly, yeah. And if I, you know, if I've been away, I kind of just come in and I'll just say, right, I'm gonna light my candles. I'm gonna put my room diffuser on. I'm gonna have a bath, and spend time with myself and really honor and appreciate what I have got and where I'm at. And not surround myself with materialistic things so much, but just be, you know, just be me. Um, and just be my authentic self. I've also continued like hiking. I'm quite active anyway, and doing exercise has continued to kind of support my own growth in that way.
Mhm.
But the main thing I've kind of found in doing these activities is some people exercise because they want to try and make themselves look better. And okay, yeah, there's a well-known fact that it makes you feel better as well, but all these things that I do it for me, and to help me, you know,
Mm.
be, I guess, continue my own growth, you know, continue with my healing,
Would you
and
say,
as well help.
I want to go back to emotion. Would
Yeah,
you say you're suppressing the emotions? Like, how do you handle the emotions that come up now?
if I have emotions that come up, I just sit with them. You know, I feel into them, and I kind of learn to understand. Well, what is it that's actually is this telling me? You know, um, I remember, for example, there's quite a few instances of getting emotions. Some of the work that I've done with Mental Health Aberdeen, you know, and some of the acquaintances I've met through them, listening and hearing their stories, and really feeling their emotions. Um, but it's allowed me to kind of sit with my own emotions afterwards, and I do a lot of journaling when those emotions do come up, and it just allows me to kind of release it because I don't need to attach anything to it. In the past, I would just suppress it. I was like, oh, something's coming up. It must be bad. I'm a bad person. That's not comfortable. And emotions are there to kind of, um, I guess, allow you to really kind of go inward with yourself, and you shouldn't be afraid to feel them. I think they're good. Emotions are good. Um, naming them in a way that it just says, okay, yeah, that's making me feel a bit sad, or an emotion that makes you feel a bit happy, or emotion that makes you feel like you want to cry. It's just a feeling. That's it, and let it out. It doesn't last forever. And then afterwards, it can then understand, well, where did that come from? What's it really mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the big part I've found is just really connecting my head to my heart, in feeling those emotions and letting them come through.
I want to go back and talk about regulating your nervous system and your cold water plunge. But before we get there, because I think this would be beneficial as a way for you, because you talk about helping other people,
Mm-hmm.
as a way for you to help them, is to talk about, especially, and I can only speak from what I've experienced with you, but we met 2 years ago. I was giving a talk online to a large group from around the world around reprogramming the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to know, what were you feeling then, and what made you move through what I imagine was apprehension and fear to share so powerfully?
I think what allowed me to connect to yourself and that in that moment was there were so many aha moments with what you shared in that talk you gave, and it was the first time with such a large group of anyone like that I've ever opened up in that way. And what was amazing to witness is the way you just held space for me in that moment. You just made me feel comfortable, even though I was really uncomfortable,
Hmm.
and a lot of emotions that I didn't really understand in that moment were coming up for me. But at the same time, I felt that I think there was just some connection there. There was something that just made me kind of think, I think this is someone that I could really appreciate me wanting to grow, that is going to support my growth, and and give me um even more tools and allow me to, work with yourself out with that forum, um to do the work.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
I'm just emotional speaking about it now, actually, because although I just remember being so kind of nervous, um, and at the same time, I also remember a lot of messages coming through live on that call, because it was online. It was on Zoom, so obviously people could chat, and um, but the way you just allowed me to share,
Mm.
and it just really really resonated with me, and I just thought, yeah, I need to. There's something here. I don't know where it was. There's something here that I need to continue on. And it made me get curious about the work that you do, which to this day still, supports my own growth and continues
Mm.
to. And I'm grateful to be part of your community as well, and support, and the support network that you have.
Yeah, you've been a great asset, actually. I think I said this in the last podcast. You were the first male I worked with, because prior to that, I just worked with women. And I would say now I work with at least 50%, if not a little bit more, men than I do with women, which is pretty awesome,
Yeah.
because it's so beautiful to see men doing this work and connecting more with their emotional side, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And it's for me, it's been such a pleasure to hold space for you,
Mhm.
and just allow you to be as you are, and sometimes poke you also when you're stuck, right? There's been some
Yeah.
times that you're like, okay, I know this is really challenging. You're really
Yeah.
challenging right now. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
because I can see where your growth is. Yeah. But I
Mhm.
want to go back to something which is connected to the nervous system that you talked about. Even in that, it was a very large group. I think there were over 100 people on that call. And you felt safe, even though you were uncomfortable and nervous, as you said, this is your words. You felt safe enough to share that. And this is something I really pride myself on in trying to create as a safe space. And of course, I can't always control how people are going to get triggered because you don't always know what their trigger is. And they don't always know what their trigger is. But
No.
when they are triggered, is to still hold that safe space and allow people to just, it's okay to be triggered. It's okay to have this emotion. It's okay to feel this way in this moment. What's important, and this goes back to the cold water thing and your first experience and someone helping you through it, is someone was helping you co-regulate.
Hmm.
So because my nervous system was in a regulated state, in a very calm space, it was easier. And this goes not just for you, I think this goes for anyone. So this is a helpful tip if you want to support, friends and family, is to hold the space for them in pure compassion and acceptance. So non-judgment. It doesn't mean that you want them to resign to whatever they're going through, but recognize that's where they are right now in this moment, and it's okay. And then what it does is it helps to regulate their nervous system, and it helps to move you from your limbic brain, which is just above your brainstem, back to your prefrontal cortex, where you have more compassion, more reasoning. You have a more open view. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's where you can emotionally regulate. This is this part of the brain. And so this is what, for example, and this is why I love cold water exposure. I do cold showers, but you do cold plunges. It's so good on the nervous system
Hmm.
because at least for me, and I'm sure you can probably relate to this. It helps me um, to learn how to get out of the trigger of the emotion a lot quicker because I'm training my body to relax. Because you literally put a stimulus of cold water onto it, and you're like, and you have to just breathe, just
Yeah,
relax. Now I use my mind, and almost every single time I do a cold shower, I think about that I'm going into a cold waterfall. Because after
yeah.
living in Brazil, like it was refreshing to go to a cold waterfall. So I just get
Mm,
my mind in that place, and then my body just relaxes. It's so powerful.
yeah. And that resonates with me as well because and another thing it's done for me is feeling the sensations, and in the past those sensations were triggers, and it's like they were uncomfortable. And it's like I don't want to feel that, but at the same time, it also then has allowed me to become present because you can't think about anything else in that moment. And actually, after a certain time of exposure in the sea with the cold water, I find that my heart rate just goes down, and I'm able to just breathe normally, and the sensations are just a tingling sensation. They're not so overwhelming or overbearing, and certainly from the work that you've shared and the work that I've done with yourself over the last couple of years has kind of got me to understand the science behind it and really kind of go into it because you get the theory as well and you know exactly what it's doing to you and why your body's going into that state, but you don't need to be afraid of it.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think it's a testament to the work that you do as well and continue to do because it gives me again the nuggets and the aha moments, when I'm going to that environment that's like, yeah, it's okay, it's fine, and it's helping me, it's supporting my growth and continue to support my healing as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I'm curious about a year ago, what kind of, not necessarily thoughts and feelings, but you talked about you had a wobble just about a year ago, and you haven't had what you call a wobble then, which is self-harm, right? Is that correct?
Yeah,
You call it a wobble?
yeah.
What has shifted within you compared to when you had those thoughts and feelings before? How did you react compared to now? How do you react? Because I mean, we have anywhere from 65,000 to 90 thoughts in a day. So I imagine you probably, the aim is not necessarily to get rid of the thoughts or the feelings. So what are you doing differently now in that process?
I think if I have those thoughts, I just kind of see them as clouds in the sky, and I remember that's something that you shared with me as well, and it's like, oh, it's just a thought. I don't need to attach myself to it, because as soon as you start to attach yourself to a thought, um, and I love the way you kind of share this, is that then you create the story behind it, and then the story becomes this narrative, and the narrative becomes a belief, and then the belief becomes a behavior, and it becomes, the way you kind of then habitually respond to that, because 95% or 80% of our thoughts are negative anyway, and it's just conditioning that maybe um, enforces or allows us to connect to them and create the story and narrative. But I just see them as that, and it's just like, it's not true. It's not present. We make it as beings ourselves. It's ourselves that make what we believe to be true, even though it's not.
Yeah.
And what's great is witnessing other people attach themselves that way, but then really being able to recognizing it, but then also sharing, within this community, the work that you did to kind of say, oh, this is what came up for me, or this is what I witnessed in someone else. And by sharing, you're able to then kind of connect with others, but also it helps you kind of connect with yourself in a way, to then realize that yes, it's a normal behavior as well, but you don't need to kind of beside yourself to that, if that or beside yourself to that rather, and behave in that way. And that's one of the things that just allows me to just kind of like stop myself. It's like, yeah, that's okay. It's just a thought. I can just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I often talk about we have a narrative that we identify. We think that we are that thing, whether I'm not
Yeah,
good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't matter, I'm not safe. And then we create thoughts and feelings that are connected to that, both on the side, the negative thoughts to try to keep us away from it, right? And the positive ones to try to, again, also keep us away from it. So, like, if we're thinking negative thoughts, we almost feel so close to it. And we have the reaction. It's like a stallion in a paddock. It's been tried to escape and it's been shocked by the electrical fence so many times that it has thoughts and feelings about that paddock, about that
yeah,
fence, right? And that it does not going to think any other way because that's what it remembers. Then that stallion, and this includes us, we form habits and behaviors, and oftentimes they're compensatory, like we're compensating, right? We're trying to do something to move away from it. So if I'm not good enough, I need to then do things that are good enough. If I don't
mhm,
matter, I'm not intelligent, I'm not smart enough, I have to do things that matter. I have to do things that make me smart. And the minute that it's jeopardized, that's the trigger. And it
yeah,
goes all the way back. So what's beautiful and what I'm hearing you saying, and this is part of the work that we do together, is, and especially in community, because we can see other people's narratives. It's, this is what's so beautiful about
yeah,
community, is people can help us see ours that we can't see,
yeah,
and we can help others see their narratives,
mhm,
um, as well as learning the practice of becoming self-aware of our own narratives. But what's beautiful is that what we learn is like, that's just a thought. And thoughts are made up of just words that I'm giving meaning to. That's the
yeah,
energy behind the thought. And the same with the sensation. Like when I feel fear, it's like I'm feeling it, it feels real, but it's not necessarily an indicator of truth. There's not a bear coming at me or someone holding a gun to my head. Usually it's just that I'm afraid of saying something wrong, for example, or getting up on stage and looking like a fool. That's a fear. There's,
mhm,
and they're just really sensations in the body that I'm having. Yeah.
yeah,
So I just love how it's not that you got rid of the thoughts. You've stopped attaching yourself as if you are the thoughts. It's not that you
yeah,
got rid of the feelings. It's that you stopped attaching yourself that you are the feelings.
yeah,
You're just experiencing sensations in the body. You're just
yeah,
having some words in your head. Yeah.
yeah. And that's it. And that's all they are in a simplistic level. Well, that's it. But
Yeah.
so many men um, don't allow themselves to feel their feelings, and then so many. And I'll speak for men anyway, but obviously it can go for anyone. then attach themselves to their thoughts,
Mhm.
and they also then attach themselves, or we attach ourselves to what people say, if they think something about us or believe something about us, and then we just kind of disassociate and disconnect from who we are ourselves. And what's great is then really kind of sitting down and finding the people that can hold space for you and to help you regulate and to really kind of help you go inward and
Mm.
support you to learn to understand, that can then kind of give you and help kind of create these shifts. Um, so you can you don't have the same level of attachment to them anymore. You don't let them kind of control you in that way, or almost kind of sometimes it's almost like they hypnotize or trick you to kind of believe that, and it's like it's just not true.
Mhm. Exactly, it's just not true. And that's the thing, it's the practice of going, "Wait, this isn't true."
Yeah,
Wait, again, it's not true. It feels true because 'cause you're literally feeling these sensations in the body, and they don't feel fun,
no,
And then, of course, then the story just plays, right?
yeah,
You're on almost repeat, and yet it's not true. Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's powerful for people to hear. As much as it's not easy to always understand at first,
hmm,
you know, but once you kind of understand, then your mind starts to accept it, then it's a lot easier to hear and to put into action.
yeah. It's a repetitive process, and it is. It's about repeating what you're not, rather than what you think you are, or not repeating what you're not. But it's more a case of just changing your beliefs,
Yeah.
and I think this community has really allowed me to kind of nurture that. And the more you do the work, the more you can then recognize it in other people, as you shared before. Um, and then it just allows you to realize that actually there's nothing weird or wrong with you. You're just same as everyone else as well. You're going through it.
Yep.
All you're doing is just creating more self awareness. Um, and and then that also then drives a better, more positive emotional intelligence approach as well. Um, so yeah, it's great to also then be part of this community where you can feel safe to allow yourself to regulate and share and reflect, and then go back and then become curious and then understand it, and then over time you can just let go of these things, that it's almost like breaking an emotional ball and chain that you're carrying around with a lead weight.
Yeah.
And I think I shared that, I remember, on quite a few calls that we've had.
You shared
uh,
it in the last podcast.
I did, yeah, I'll do
Yeah.
that here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. And you just kind of like, yeah, diminishing it. It's like, oh, okay, I don't need that anymore. It's like
Yeah.
a weight lifted.
Mm. Yep. You're exiting from your cocoon that you put yourself in, that life of being a caterpillar when you're meant to be a butterfly.
Yeah.
We're all meant to be butterflies.
Mhm.
Okay, a couple of questions before we go. What does forgiveness look like to you?
I think for me, first and foremost, it's about forgiving myself. Um, that question actually
Mm.
resonates with me because working with mental health Aberdeen, which I've been doing since last year, I remember being in one of the group sessions, and I had written two letters around forgiveness, and I think this was like 6 7 weeks in, and I never really shared in the session what I was going to do. Although I did say maybe at the start that it's one of the things I wouldn't mind doing at some point. And in that group, I remember reading out those letters, um, and there wasn't a dry eye in that room, and it was like grown men, like 8 of us, and the facilitator was actually a lady, who's a really good friend. She's amazing. Actually, she's a good friend of mine now. Um, and even as I was reading, like my hands were shaking as I had the letters out, and there were handwritten letters. My handwriting's not the great, so I was struggling. But it was so powerful in a way to allow me just to release those emotions, to have them come up in that way. So powerful. Um, and then just to look around and 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 see the expressions and emotions and other people, but I wasn't attaching myself to them. It was just this is me doing it for me, um, and it was such a powerful experience. It's something that still kind of sits with me in a um, probably as powerful as running a marathon, which I also did last year, but it was just on another level, and it was just amazing
Mm.
to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then also, share with with the people that I've shared with.
That's so beautiful. And now, just because you mentioned Mental Health Aberdeen, and I'm very familiar with them because you talk about them so much, but now you're doing a program with them.
Yeah, I
Which I
am.
think is
Yeah,
so cool to talk about, at least to share.
no, it is, and I'm really, really humbled because in that facilitation, in that group that I was in, I kind of came in as a participant initially with the men's group, and it was quite an intimate group. Um, and throughout that kind of block, I think it was 12 or 14 weeks, um, I almost became more of a facilitator as well, and I was able to support others. And I was so humbled to be kind of asked to go back and actually this time be a facilitator. And I remember being asked that, and I got really emotional about it. I had a bit of a cry.
Mm.
um, but it, in some ways, it was just really, really. I was really humbled because at the same time, it's like, right, this is me. This is me being my authentic self now. This is me without the armor and the mask, and being really kind of thought highly of another psychotherapist who's got years and years of experience, who says she believed in me in that way, and I'm really, really grateful to be doing that. And then alongside that, I'm also currently training to become a volunteer counsellor as well,
Yeah.
which I'm so grateful about. Um, but I still have the support around me, even now, and I still have the likes of, obviously, the tools that you've given me, in this group, and the work that we've done together, and the way you've kind of shared numerous podcasts with me, numerous kind of little memes and conversations that we've had, which I've then been able to take forward, and it for me, and I think I've shared it in the community as well. Is it's this ripple effect, as you grow, then other people see the worth in you, and they want to kind of grow themselves. And I just love seeing and experiencing the changes, and supporting the changes of others as well.
Yeah. I just want you to recognize over the last year, you've self-harm, you went from self-harm to now being trained as a volunteer counselor.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
it
freaking
is.
fantastic.
Yeah, and not
Yeah.
being on any medication.
Yeah, I mean, you haven't been on any medication, how much
No,
healed just in the last year and where you're
yeah,
going. And now like you're in that place where you're like, I'm ready. I have capacity to give back.
yeah.
I really have capacity to give back. Okay, two final questions. What's a book you would recommend for people to read, especially if they're getting started in this work?
Oh God.
'Cause I know you read.
I do. I read a lot. Um, I think one of the powerful books that resonates with me is Edith Eger, her story called The Choice. And she was a Holocaust survivor. And one quote that really sticks with me is, she said towards the end of the book, that healing isn't about recovery; it's about discovery. And that really, really resonated with me. And I remember reading that book probably nearly 2 years ago, if not a bit longer. But for me to really understand that what it really meant took me about another year. To really then go on that journey. Have the support that I needed to have on a professional level in terms of psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, a CPN, and then the work of that you do as well, Kerri-Ann, and stuff to really kind of learn more about myself. And that was such a powerful story as well. Anyway, so yeah.
Beautiful. Great recommendation. I haven't read the book, so it's definitely going on my reading list.
All right,
And I
yeah,
know you've shared it before, and I'm an avid reader too. So
yeah.
awesome. Final question. So we have never met in person before. And in just over a month, we're going to meet for the first time in person because I'm coming to Aberdeen. I'm coming to Scotland for the first time.
Yeah.
To connect with you and several others that you have so graciously connected me with, and they're such beautiful souls. And also, you've been so gracious of supporting, as well as several others, of putting this retreat together that we're doing. I'm just kind of curious to know, how are you feeling about meeting me for the first time?
Well, first of all, I'm so grateful that you're going to be coming to Scotland, and yeah, it's been quite a journey. That it's quite just the fact that we've never really met in person. Yeah, we've obviously grown, to know each other really well virtually, in that way, and um, I'm really excited about it. I'm actually really humbled, and I'm really excited about this retreat in Lendrick Lodge in Calendar. That's going to be happening in mid-March, and I'm really excited to connect you with some of the people that I've grown to know as well, that supported my own growth. I think it's just going to be great. And as we stay in Scotland, in Aberdeen anyway, I'm looking forward to giving you a big bosey, which is like a massive hug. And I obviously heard that you're very tall, so I can't wait to actually see that in person. For
I'm like an NBA basketball player.
yeah, yeah. So it's going to be great. Yeah, and the thing is, I think you learn. I've learned so much, from the work that you've done and the community that you've created. But also post lockdown, some of the work that I've been doing, it's nice to actually do that in person, because human beings, we engage better if we're in physical presence of other human beings, I think. And I continue to honour and support the work that you do. So it's going to be really good to obviously, have that come to fruition in the same space. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it will be amazing. I'm excited for this Bosie, and also I learned chinwag.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we can have a good conversation.
Conversation, which is a chinwag for those that aren't from the UK or Scotland, because I'm not sure if it's just a Scottish word or just a general British word. But yes, it means conversation. There's been many times when Omar has said something, and I'm like, I have no idea what that means, but we speak the same language. Awesome. Thank you so much for hopping back on, Omar, and just kind of giving us an update. I think I shared this with you, and the audience doesn't know this 'cause they don't see the numbers. But your episode last year has been the most watched episode, almost triple the amount of others. I think partly because you share it, which is so awesome that you share it. But it's something that people really resonated with. So I think they're going to resonate with this one too. So thank you so much, Omar.
No, thank you very much, Kerri-Ann. It's great to be invited back, but it's also great to be an advocate of the work that you do, and I continually I'm always inspired and continue to be inspired as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to having you here and even continuing to do the work that you do, and continue to work with yourself and your community.
Thanks, Omar.
Thank you very much. Thank you.